Hello everyone, I'm here a couple of minutes early. It wasn't giving me a preview, so I just wanted to make sure that I'm all set up all right. I hope you're doing well. I'm going to bring up the chat, which for some reason is not working. There's me. There's me. Oh God, I can hear myself. No one wants that. Oh, hi. Now I can see the chat. All right, pop out chat. Minimize myself. So many steps. There you go. Now I can see you all. Making a tea. Lovely. I've got a glass of water for myself because I'm trying to drink more water generally at the moment, trying to stay hydrated. Just like that picture I tweeted of Gertrude and Carla from Journey to the Centre of the Earth. But I kept falling down the trap of like wanting Ribena or squash or a Coca-Cola. I just wanted it, especially when I was quite tired at the beginning of this whole period. Yeah, so now I'm trying to trick myself with water. I've said to myself on some days, like if I can get to 8 or 9 glasses of water, then I'm allowed to have a Coke or something. So anyway, that's how I'm entertaining myself. Hello, I've placed Journey to the Centre of the Earth behind me. Agnes is finishing Journey today so that they can vote on the questions, and that's really exciting. I haven't actually looked through any of the questions that you guys have submitted yet, but I'm excited to do so. This copy comes with some reading glasses because it's one of the vintage classics that has 3D covers. So you can, it does look quite cool. I don't know if there's a way I can recreate that experience for you because there's only one lens. Ooh, old-fashioned gels. Oh yeah, you can kind of see like how explosive it is. I don't know. Yeah, quite a few people have had trouble with Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which is fine. There are books you like and books you don't like. One thing I loved about it is that the chapters are so short. Because I don't know about you, but I found that in this lockdown period, I'm really struggling to read some of the really long books that I've got on my to-read pile, and I'm excited to read them. It's just when I sit down to it, I can read 1 or 2 pages, and then my head just says, no, we're not going to do this today. Greetings to Austria. I have the original art in my edition. They're really beautiful. Well, I haven't seen any of the original art. I don't know if they've been shared on the Discord, but hopefully I can look through. And Valkyrie is only up to chapter 6. Glad there's time left in the reading period. There is so much time left in the reading period. Blonde Roots, which is our next book by Bernardine Evaristo, which I have up here. Somewhere. Hang on. Here we go. Blonde Roots is our next book, and that's, I think, started shipping out again because it's safe for people to be in the warehouse at DFTBA observing social distancing, and I think they have far fewer staff members working at any one time. So hopefully you'll start getting some of those soon if you're a subscriber to the Lives Library Book Club. I'm excited to talk about that one. There's lots of exciting things to do with that one happening. I also am, during that reading period, going to try to read Girl, Woman, Other, which is Bernardine Evaristo's newest one, which won the Booker Prize. Have been really excited to read that. And I also have her book, The Emperor's Babe, which is fantastic. Just has, and I remember when I did an internship, Mr. Loverman was about to come out, and all of the, I think was it when I was interning at Penguin? All of the mail arts and stuff were to do with Mr. Loverman. Josh says, I always cheat and just use a Kindle if I'm struggling to zoom in. That's absolutely fine. I think there's a lot of things that people call cheating when it comes to reading, when it comes to like audiobooks, which isn't cheating, it's just reading in a different way, or if it's using different formats that help you, like I think it's absolutely fine. For me, it's usually like physical books really helps because then I can't distract myself elsewhere. But everyone finds their own way. I've been enjoying audiobooks. There's some on BBC Sounds, or like excerpts from them, or abridged versions. I've been really enjoying David Attenborough's Life on Earth, which is fantastic and is all on BBC Sounds, which is the BBC app. But I think you have to, I don't know what the restrictions are on hearing that, basically. But I was happily surprised, and I've been listening to it while I do my gardening, which makes me feel very like in touch with nature. What was your favourite Life's Library pick so far, Rosianna? Asked Cara. Well, so this is my Life's Library pile from last year's books. It's so hard, actually. I mean, I loved reading House of the Spirits with everyone, because that's just like such a it's a book that I absolutely adore. But actually, when we all read Mountains Beyond Mountains, the book about Partners in Health and about Dr. Paul Farmer, and then we got to do a Q&A with the founders of Partners in Health, that was just like, as a whole thing all at once, as a whole experience put together, that was really powerful. And the same with We Crossed a Bridge and It Trembled, and If You Come Softly, like those author Q&As as well, just were really powerful to me. And I've been trying to think about ways that we can do versions of that even when the author's not available, whether it's like talking to an editor or talking to someone who's like a really big fan or a specialist. But yeah, Valkyrie said Mountains Beyond Mountains was amazing. Yes, I loved it. And I've been in such a period of like non-fiction reading, and actually it's been really helpful to have read that last year and to know more about Partners in Health's work in general, and through through every time that they've been fantastic and come on the Life's Library Discord, or just like any interaction we have with them, and then to like have that context for the moment right now is really helpful. Jonathan says that was such a good Q&A. Yeah, it really was. And I hope that we can have them all back on soon. Like I think they were pretty keen to. Understandably, they're quite busy right now, but hopefully we can find an opportune moment. That also reminds me to mention, I think a lot of you will have seen that there's the Roald Dahl Story Company has a read-along right now of James and the Giant Peach, which is one of my personal favourite Roald Dahl stories. And it has Taika Waititi as like the main person who's kind of like hosting it. But it also has like Benedict Cumberbatch, Lupita Nyong'o, who else? There's so many people. The Hemsworth boys, Chris and Liam, Kate Blanchett. Oh my gosh, there's so many people involved in it. Tessa Thompson taking part in the read-along, and they're uploading new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and fundraising for Partners in Health as well. So you can check that out on the Roald Dahl Story. You can check that out on the Roald Dahl channel. My mouth just went into space, as it tends to do these days. But there've been so many read-alongs. There's been the New York Public Library ones. I kind of can't really keep up with how many, but that's okay, because now they just exist and we don't have to watch everything all at once. Like, I've found minimizing my screen time has actually been helpful. But those things exist now, which is great. Crocus Kind said, I read the sequels to All Systems Red as ebook for the first time, and I found it really helpful to be able to search for keywords while discussing it. Other than that, I prefer real, which I'm guessing is physical books. Oh, hiccup. Yeah, that's interesting. Even when I was reading a PDF I had to read, and I borrowed Sana's iPad, my flatmate's iPad, to read it, and it was such an interesting, different experience, because I couldn't feel how much the book was left, and I found that a bit difficult. And then I also started to consider the book in percentage rather than in pages. It was, and like, I know you can like toggle that function, but that was just interesting to me. Valkyrie says, has your reading been affected by the whole COVID situation? I've been finding it very difficult to read. Yes, I have been finding it very difficult to read too. At times, just like the mere act of, I'm just dropping everything behind me. At times, the mere act of like sitting and looking at a page of text is difficult. At other times, it's, I don't even know. It's just like the concept of reading a book about anything is hard, or like I start to read something and I'm like, I'm not really in the mood for that. But actually, like the last like week or two, it's mostly been about energy and just feeling really quite tired by the point that I'm in a day where I normally would like sit down with a book of of my choice that I would like to read, and I get to that point and I just feel really quite just really quite tired and quite low energy. So I've tried to tell myself, like, okay, well, I'll just read for 10 minutes and see how I feel. And sometimes that turns into like a longer reading period. But I've also allowed myself to say, like, you don't have to read right now. This isn't this isn't a test of what you love doing, and this isn't a holiday as well, which I think is, I'm thrilled for people who can read right now, but I'm finding it difficult, and that's okay. I'm like sitting in front of my TBR pile right now, which includes a lot of library books, and I expect that to keep kind of growing and growing over time. Also because I'm trying to support the local independent bookshops that are having a bit of a hard time, and I I go in with full intention of buying a gift voucher. And then I just spot a couple of books on the website and I'm like, well, I actually really do want to read that. And there's that little voice in my head that's like, well, it's helping them. And I'm just trying to be aware of that. But I know everyone has different things they're doing to make this whole situation easier on them. And I think book retail therapy is a little bit like that for me. So I'm cognizant of it. I don't want to make our poor postman work any harder than he already has to. So I am aware of it, but it is something that's providing me with relief. Hi, Stefan. Hello, Anna. Fiona asks, where do you buy your books? I mostly buy them from various independent bookshops around London. My friends own a bookshop called The Alligator's Mouth, which is a children's bookshop. And the friends from there are friends I made when I worked at the Lion and Unicorn, which was in Richmond as well. And they were the managers there, and they went over and started their own children's bookshop once the Lion and Unicorn closed. So I'm trying to support them. I've also been ordering from Daunt, which is the Marylebone one, which is like a particular favourite of mine. You order from all of the Daunts, but I love the Marylebone one, and it gives me a joy when they deliver the books and they're all like wrapped up and they have a Daunt sticker on them. It just feels really special. I've been ordering from Pages of Hackney, which is such a favourite of mine. If any of you saw my independent bookshop tour when I got in a bus crash from like last year or the year before, they at Pages of Hackney were like the first people I spoke to after I got out the bus crash, and they were so nice and just like so sweet. So yes, I've ordered from them, and they unfortunately had to close their Pages Cheshire Street shop, so that's really sad. I mean, they were planning to not renew it, I believe, but like they had to move that forward. There are so many independent bookshops around London, and if you think that they won't be able to order a book for you, or you think that they're not taking orders, just check in with them. Like, they might not have a website, but they probably have a phone number, and many of them are still taking orders, and some of them aren't, which is fine. And Gardeners, who supply most of the books, the wholesalers who distribute most of the books for those independent bookshops, have done a really good job of stopping when things feel like they aren't as safe, and like they stopped distribution for a while, or they did only single line orders, so you could only order one book at a time, and then now they're up to bigger orders, and they've been posting videos of how they're treating their employees and making them feel comfortable and safe, and all the measures that they're doing, which for me is really reassuring, because initially I felt a bit like, oh, I don't know, like I was just making a choice for me and not thinking about anyone else. The other service I sometimes use is Hive, which is a website where you can order books through, and then you can pick bookshops, independent bookshops, to support with that money. And I've been picking Houseman's, which is like a radical bookshop in King's Cross that I love, and it's where I get Climate Change book from all the time. And it's really brilliant, it has such a wonderful selection. So yes, those are some answers, but I'd encourage you to look up independent bookshops in your area and give them a call if you can. Nikki says, hi Nikki, choosing which books to bring home with me was the hardest decision ever, especially given the pandemic and knowing my changed reading preferences. Yeah, that is really difficult to know like what you're going to want at any given time. Like when I picked books to take out the library, I picked chunky, and that was like the main criteria for that. And now actually looking at them, there have been many times that I thought like, why did I think I would be in the mood to read a 600-page book? But I think there is going to be a time when I will want to do that, and just like immerse myself in it, especially if I have a full day on the weekend or something. And yeah, I don't know what other things have factored into it, because I'd actually take out a lot of books that were related to pandemics because I'm me, and enjoyed reading those at first as well. So who knows? Isabel says, I'd love to hear more about your cycling around London. Has it been difficult to avoid people, particularly the times of day you like? Yeah, so I got a bike on Friday and had a big long ride on Saturday, which was so great. I cycled 32 kilometers, which was fantastic. And then today and yesterday, I've been for like little cycle rides for about an hour or so. It's just been so nice. It's such a luxury, and I feel really aware of that as well. Like, that's the thing. I just keep thinking, like, what if everyone had a bike? This would feel much more manageable. But it has been noticeably quieter on the roads than like any other time I've ever cycled in London. I grew up cycling in London, and it's really quiet. And I think there's just like a general awareness of cyclists as well. There are times that are a little bit more busy. So like between like 7 and 9 is a little bit more busy, but nothing compared to what it used to be. And there are so many good, calm, quiet road cycle routes and options in my area. And if there's ever a time where I feel a bit like, oh, I don't really want to go around this complicated, tight roundabout area, then I just get off my bike and I walk it across the pedestrian crossing until I feel comfortable getting back on it. So I'm really enjoying it. And as the weather is so beautiful, it's really nice to have that. Yline21 says, I'm still going into work as an essential worker, but it's hard when it seems everyone else has more free time. Yeah, that is really difficult. And because it's such a different range of experiences of it. Like, thank you for your work you're doing. I know you said you don't think of yourself as an essential worker, or you don't agree with it, is what you said. But thank you for doing that anyway. And it's hard because, yeah, you have essential workers, and then you have people who are able to work from home, but still have like an element of elasticity in what they're able to do and like the slack they're able to cut for themselves. And then people who are furloughed right now and people who've lost their jobs, like it's a whole different range of experience. And I think I just completely don't identify with anyone who says like, I have so much open time, I'm so bored, because I'm just like, I don't understand that. But it really reinforces that like everyone is experiencing the same thing differently. And for me, that feels very similar to like grief when you lose someone, and different people who know that person in different ways experience that grief very differently. Like, I think that has really prepared me in some ways for this, and for understanding that different people are experiencing this quote unquote universal moment differently. And a lot of that is to do with the inherent inequality in our society as well. That was just such a little tangent there. Age said, my mum was really happy that her sister sent her a book unannounced. Maybe that's a way to support a bookstore without getting books for yourself. Yes, it's so nice to send someone something if you can. Like, I'm sending postcards as much as possible to people, and like, it doesn't have to be a big fancy gift basket or anything, but I'm really enjoying just like putting little things in the post, or if there's someone if there's someone who would really love a particular book, or you just want to, if they're having like a particularly hard time as well, then just sending them a little something or ordering a little something from an independent shop is a great way to support that shop, and also just say hello, or buying them a book voucher for that shop as well. Anna is finding listening to audiobooks a great alternative to reading a physical book right now. Yes, absolutely. Ashley is getting ready for work. Yuval says, how are you navigating consuming enough news to be informed of the latest local global news but not be overwhelmed by all the news out there? Oh, it's hard. It's a really difficult balance. Initially, I was watching every single 5 p.m. press conference. I was reading the news like 3 or 4 times a day from lots of different outlets. And I was also trying to keep up with things that are happening outside of COVID specifically. And that was too much. That was challenging, but I understand why I wanted to do that. So now I'm trying to kind of being more mindful about maybe checking on the news like once or twice a day. I'm also focusing a bit more on when it comes to COVID updates, I'm focusing more on local news because that's like what affects me really, really directly. And then I'm checking in on what's happening in Mexico and what's happening in a few other places that I'm really keenly aware of. And then also trying to keep up with the news about different refugee camps and how they've been affected. But I'm actually getting a lot of that news from the UN Refugee Agency and other organisations working there. So I think it kind of has lessened the feeling that like I need to know everything all the time by keeping it a little bit local, but still being aware that there are other things going on. It's a difficult balance though, because I'm inevitably going to not be listening to someone and not be paying attention to some news, but I'm only one person, and me doing anything is contingent on like looking after my mental health. And if I don't have that, like I can't do anything else. Bike sales are through the roof. Yeah, I think they're pretty through the roof here as well. My bike took about 5 weeks to arrive, and then it arrived in this huge box, but mostly assembled, which was great. And it's really nice because I was trying to like walk around and find a bike shop near me, but there weren't any that were open. In fact, like the place I ended up ordering from, Evans, had just shut down near me, and I was like, well, this would have been so convenient. Shrisha says, could you suggest a few non-fiction and fiction books about food? Well, the number one food fiction book for me personally is Como agua para chocolate, which is it's next to Valentina Evaristo, which is Like Water for Chocolate. This was written in the 80s. It is about a Mexican family it's mainly about the youngest girl in the Mexican family, and I am the youngest in a Mexican-British family. And she cooks her way through all of her emotions. It's about passionate love and forbidden love and duty and revolution and just like all the extremes of emotions. But each chapter is broken up by a different recipe that has some kind of role in the chapter. And I love it. I love it because it feels like the most real representation of my relationship to cooking, especially when I'm working through something. I absolutely adore it. Let me look what else. While I'm here, it's useful to have my bookshelf right here. I read a non-fiction book called Salt, A Wild History by Mark Kulansky that's really good. Oh my gosh. It's hard sometimes thinking of ones like specific to a prompt. I mean, I love the Anna Jones cookbooks, even just as like reading through them and reading about her relationship to food is really interesting. And I've started cooking from Nigel Slater's Green Feast. And it's my first Nigel Slater to cook from. And it's just interesting because it's so different from the other cookbooks that I enjoy that are like very emotive narrative. Like it's quite spare in a lot of ways. And it sort of like trusts me as a chef. And I'm like, why do you trust me? I'm not sure that I'm worthy of being trusted. I'm not worthy of being trusted. I can't think of any right now, but I'll think about it. And I'll let you know. Heartburn by Nora Ephron's another one that has a lot of like cooking in it. But yes. Valkyrie says, I'm a uni student and the rapid change to online study has been challenging and it's really hard to find motivation for study. Yeah, I can't imagine. Like, I think that is such a big transition and I'm sorry you're finding it so hard. The closest sort of analogy I guess I have to it was when I was in my second year of secondary school, our school burnt down, normal. The main like wing of the school caught on fire through an electrical fault. No one was hurt, thankfully, and the school went down and we were off school for a little while and then we had half days and then we had, eventually they had like porta cabins outside, and we eventually were able to like have lessons there. I remember having like some lessons in the gym, and there were like 5 or 6 other classrooms in the gym, and it was so distracting. And then they sent us home with all this work that we had to do in our half days at home, like by ourselves. And luckily for me, like year 8 isn't a massively key year, so I didn't. It was like second year. It wasn't a massively key year, so I didn't miss out on much. But it's just hard and distracting when your head is somewhere else, and also when you're on a screen. So yeah, my thought goes out to anyone whose work or like studying life has shifted that dramatically. Cara says, really interesting thoughts about grief. I feel like I can witness how everyone reacts with different defense mechanisms to the situation. Some react with sublimation, others with complete denial, etc. Yeah, I think I'm learning a lot about how the people I know react to crisis, which is interesting because I've worked a lot on understanding how I react to crisis or challenges or a lack of control, really. Like the lack of control is the big thing that comes up in general with me, but specifically with this too. And it's been helpful to have that sort of training, and then also, yeah, understand more about the people I know and love and care about. Both on the, front of knowing how to better support them, but also just knowing what they're struggling with and being able to listen with more attention to different parts of it, if that makes sense. It's kind of vague. Yeah, it's interesting to see a lot of your news habits have changed since the start of lockdown. Oh, thank you, Jade. That's so nice of you to say. Jessica says, Water for Chocolate was amazing. It moved me to tears at the end, but in a lovely way. Yeah, I agree. Like, I've read that book 1,000 times and I cry every single time. The Little House Cookbook has an excerpt from the relevant book before each recipe. Oh, that sounds really great. That reminds me of like the little, oh gosh, what was it called? Little Grey Rabbit or Grey Rabbit? I can't remember what it was called, but they had like a Grey Rabbit cookbook, Little Grey Rabbit cookbook. And I love that cookbook because it had a lot of like random things you could do around the house, a lot of crafts and things, but then also had a recipe for lemonade. I don't know, it's just one of those children's books that I remember very vaguely and loved. Anna says, one of my favorite books growing up was about children who started a restaurant in their house with no adults present. It had the recipes they cooked in the back. Oh, that sounds great. What was the name of that book? Because I want to read it. Also, now that we're talking about food so much, I'm realizing how hungry I am. I got back from my bike ride and I was just sort of running through all of the food in my fridge and thinking what I'm going to make. And I think I'm going to make gnocchi. I bought some spinach gnocchi last time I went to the shop. So that's what I'm going to make. Jonesy Banana says, I'd really love to reread Como Ama para Chocolate. I had to read it as part of my Spanish A-level, and I think my 25-year-old self would appreciate it far more than my 17-year-old self did. I find out with so many books, like even if I did like them at the time, rereading them, I'm like, oh, I identify with a completely different character in this, or I have a completely different perspective in this. And it's really funny to see that now and understand that about myself. Like just rereading his Dark Materials, I identify with a completely different characters now than I used to. Like I used to identify with Lyra, and now there's like a more parental feeling towards her. It's just odd. It's odd how that changes and makes me think like, how do you write for that? That's always really my question, is like, how do you write for that? How do you write knowing that someone reading it will be reading it at different stages in their life, a stage of life that maybe you've not experienced yet, and your perception of, especially like being older in life, might be very different from the reality. But I guess that's writing anything, because we've only been one person ever. So yeah. Anna remembers it as, I remember it was called All's Cooked Over, which is a pun. My Dutch is terrible. I apologize. I apologize. Valkyrie started rereading The Hunger Games with the prequel coming out, and it's so different to reading it when I was a teenager. I forgot the prequel was coming out today, I think, or maybe, I don't know if it's today or next week or something, but Sana's got it because she got a gifted copy. So I might borrow that at some point. I haven't read the books since I was a teenager, I don't think. Like, I haven't read them in forever. Yeah, and I wonder what I would feel about Mockingjay now. So I wasn't very happy with it in some ways. But then I also know it's like that end of a series feeling. Yeah, I don't know. Fiona can never find a good, comfortable position to read in. My favourite is, okay, I can't demonstrate it really. It's kind of like a version of drawing, if you know what drawing is. It's lying on the sofa with my feet up on the back of the sofa. And so like my back's supported by like lying down on the sofa, but my legs are up. And for some reason, that really helps me read. That really helps. But then I also just like switch around a lot, and I go to different rooms, and like sometimes I'm like in my bed with my book up on my face. Other times I'm like just kind of cross-legged somewhere. When I'm cross-legged, I feel like I really stand to attention, like I'm really paying attention. Don't really know why. Yes, that's that's like the main thing. I think when I have my back supported as well, it's usually because I like holding it. I just get quite tired. Reading positions, very very complicated. I find like I do need a level of support on my back. Maybe it's because I always slouch all the time, as I'm noticing in this live stream. Mockingjay is quite divisive. Yeah, I remember it being divisive. I remember it came out just before some kind of convention I went to, and I remember just like the discussion of it as well. I don't know. I just remember it also just being. It must be so hard to write the final in a trilogy. Like I don't envy that task. It's quite difficult. Isabel says, your thoughts on the 2 new Killers songs and their live streams. I am thrilled that I was your introduction to the Killers. That makes me so happy. I've loved their new music. Like I have enjoyed it so much, especially like dancing around to Fire and Bone and Caution on the weekends has been really nice. Like there'll be at some point every single weekend where I'll put them on and on repeat basically, and just either like do some kind of exercise to them or just end up waltzing around, not actually waltzing, around my living room, because they're such like fun, funky summer songs. At first I was really sad that I'm not going to be able to see them on tour this year, obviously, because no one's going to be able to see them on tour this year, but I really love how they've adapted to the at-home format and the different ways that they've managed to introduce those songs to people, and like even just do different versions of them live at home. Like Caution's such a good example of that. The very first one they recorded in Browner's bathroom, and then they've like moved it around different places, and they have access to a studio in Utah as well. So it's just been interesting to see how these limitations affect how people kind of promote things, but also how they work on their own work and show the best of their work in that way. Like it felt very intimate, and it felt very like concert at home. Which honestly was really nice because, I am sad that I'm not going to be able to see them. I'm also sad that I'm not going to be able to see all my Killers friends who I love seeing at every gig, and that's like the only time I see them. But it's okay. It's okay. But like live music will always survive. I'm excited for the album whenever it comes out. And it's been funny watching them live stream as well, and kind of experience the live stream and the bits they like and don't like. Like they clearly favour Instagram Live. Lauren thought their live stream was kind of hilarious, which I agree with. AJ saw the Killers at the Isle of Wight Festival 7 years ago. They were amazing. My best friend adores them, and seeing the joy they bring to him and to you is so heartwarming. Yeah, I love them. I just love them. It's just like a different feeling. Like there was one evening, I don't know if it was this live stream or the one before that, where I was like watching the live stream in my bed, in my room. I had like the door closed. I had my headphones on. And I was just listening to it, and I felt like such a fan. And I think I'm quite an enthusiastic person, but still that like feeling of like warm fandom is sometimes a little harder to come by than it used to be, and that was a nice opportunity to access that. Any other questions, or otherwise I can just tell you a bit more about. I just keep when I'm live streaming, I'm now aware of how much I touch my face, which is not great. But I did just have a shower, so we're all good. Yeah, good little cover, that one. John and I recorded the podcast for the book club yesterday, which was really fun. He hasn't finished the book yet, but we also just talked about this moment in general and the genre of book like that and what we get out of it. And I'm excited that everyone will be able to listen to this podcast as well, because I love the podcast and I want people to be able to listen to them. And yeah, I want them to have a sort of a bigger audience. One thing we were thinking of doing maybe, and I'll be interested to hear what you will think of this, is releasing the podcast we did in 2019, like week by week, and making those public, especially during this time when people are like at home and doing a lot of reading and stuff, because I think audio is quite helpful, like having an audio option of a books podcast to listen to, and also all of these files that we already have would be great. I don't know why I phrased that way. I'm really just like, I find myself once every like half an hour or so in any conversation these days, I just kind of get lost in thought and go on a different route. But in short, we're thinking about making the previous Life's Library podcast public to everyone as well. And I'd be interested to see what you think of that. That was a much quicker way of saying it. Happy Feel Sore because at a festival while volunteering for the Red Cross, singing in front stage. Oh yeah, so good. Valkyrie has shaved their head during isolation. Have you done anything adventurous during this time period? I haven't. I have been thinking about piercing my own ears, which I know some people think is a really silly thing to do, but I'm thinking about it. I have all the appropriate, very safe equipment, just the lobes, nothing cartilage. But that's something I'm thinking about doing. Honestly, I haven't been that adventurous. A lot of my life hasn't really, aside from like my evenings and like being able to work out and about in cafes and things, I haven't really done much differently to how I was previously. Like the big loss is not being able to see my friends, and the big loss is not being able to like just hop on a tube somewhere and like go to the cinema or go to the theatre or something like that, or just like wander around the Tate or go to the gym, things like that. But like my actual day-to-day hasn't really changed that much, because I've been working for myself for a long time, and except with the exception of like those 3 years in Indiana with John, like I've been working for on my own kind of hours and remotely for a long time. So yeah, nothing too adventurous yet, as far as we know. It's always tempting to dye my hair, but I actually quite like the natural colour, and it's so healthy now. I always wondered why my hair was so like brittle and rubbish, and it turns out that box dyeing your hair for many years can have that effect sometimes. What books with unusual storytelling have you read? Oh, unusual storytelling. I'm always just like turning around and looking at my bookshelves. Kate Tempest's poetry collection was great. Oh, I can't remember which one. I'm thinking one in particular. I'm going to look it up. Kate Tempest. It's going to be really Let Them Meet Chaos, or Everybody Down. I think it was Let Them Meet Chaos. Don't remember like particularly loving. Daisy Jones and the Six is so good for that. Like an oral storytelling of a band at the kind of the start of a band, its success, and then how things kind of begin to disintegrate. Essentially a version of like the Fleetwood Mac story in many ways, but it's so wonderfully done, and I found myself crying at the book, and I didn't expect to cry at the book. I found it extremely moving. Yeah. Fiona says, I always feel guilty reading fiction books as though I'm not productive enough. I feel like it's still the one mindset from secondary school I can't shake. Yeah, there are those things that you just kind of carry with yourself. I think it's okay to let yourself like have that thought, and then just remember that it's just a thought. It's not a fact. It doesn't mean anything about you. And it's just something that you're used to feeling. But it's not true. Like, you can read, you're allowed to read. It's a kind thing to do, and it's good for you in your like in every aspect of your life. Productivity, I think if there's one thing about this whole period, like I really hope that question of productivity sort of goes away. I was quite disturbed actually by hearing all the like, this is like at the beginning of this, like this is such a great opportunity for you to like write your novel and do this, that, and the other. Because I feel like that extra pressure or stress of it, that some people are going to be kind of pushing on themselves to be their most productive, successful version of themselves during this time is actually quite can be quite damaging, really, and it doesn't feel like it's good for our immune system. So I think hopefully this like slightly slower pace of life will be a phase of our life. I don't know, but it's difficult because there's so many other factors to it, which again got a bit lost in my head. McVisit would love to hear the podcast they missed. Wylam did their first quarantine haircut last night. My flatmate Zana just trimmed a little bit of her hair. Illyria would like to listen to all the old podcasts. Lisa said, what are some of your favorite cookbooks and what are the best recipes in them? Okay, well, I love Anna Jones, who is a fantastic chef, and her recipes are brilliant and they've not let me down. She also has some time living in California, so she cooks a lot of Mexican food, which is just great. The first one I got was One Way to Cook, which has just been so like heavily used. There is a great recipe in here that I love. Oh, this is really going to do even more to make me hungry now. Oh, the mung bean dal is great. We have no freezer space, but you can freeze a dal and it lasts for a long, long time. But I loved that one. I used to make it all the time in Indiana. And I think it's definitely in back burner. The butternut and sweet leek hash is a perfect weekend brunch situation. I swap out, as you can see from my note, maybe I swap out the potatoes for sweet potatoes, and there's an amazing dressing. And then there's like a one that has peanut. Oh yeah, the chard broccoli with cucumber noodles and peanut sauce is great. And there's another one with like tofu and peanut that I love. Everyone's hungry. Oh, this is great too. The sweet potato, lime and peanut soup. I love lime and peanut, and so does Anna Jones. Is it the bun char? I think it is the bun char. Yeah, the lemon, peanut and herb bun char is amazing. Apologies if you have a peanut allergy. So that's that one. And then this was her first one, A Modern Way to Eat. And my favorite recipe in here is a Mexican one. So I don't actually always follow it because I kind of know how to make this already. But it's the tomato, like the sweet tortilla tomato bowls. And she's actually put up the recipe for that free on her website. So you can, where has it gone? So you can make it yourself. But there's so many. I've been like cooking my way through some weeks. Like some weeks I have more cooking weeks than others. Like this week is not a cooking week, but it's the sweet tomato and black bean tortilla bowls. I tend to not ever really put the tortilla on it because I just like, by the time I've made it, I'm so hungry. But I love that. I make a big pot of that, and then I have at least 2 meals worth of it, sometimes a bit more. And then the Modern Cook Year is actually, Modern Cook's Year is probably my favorite now, because it's seasonal. So it's all broken down by all the different seasons and like a few extra seasons as well. So I can eat like locally produced veg and reduce my carbon footprint in that way. And also just, it's slightly more adventurous cooking too, but it's still really manageable. And I've just been so pleased with some of the things that I've made from here. Let me think of particular examples. I made something from here the other day that was so good. Oh, I love a honey cake with coriander seeds. And there's like a cardamom cake. Anyway, there's so much good stuff in here. And now I'm just really hungry. And then the other one I really love is the Middle Eastern Vegetarian Cookbook, which Sarah Uris Green, whose book is You Are an Artist, available now, gave me. And that has lots of little dishes, like lots of little, like a Lebanese omelette and almond conserve and breakfast pastries and different ways to prepare quinoa and grilled asparagus. And it's just lovely. It gives me like a more intimate connection with food and different spices and things. So yeah, that was like a big overview. Lots of people saying yes, share the podcast. Okay, great, cool. I'll chat more of it on the Discord to see how people think. For unusual storytelling, I'd recommend Salt Slow by Julia Anfield and Her Body and Other Stories by Carmen Maria Machado. I still haven't read Her Body and Other Stories. Or is it Her Body and Other Parties? I think it's that. But I have meant to for a long time, so I hope to get around there. I re-pierced my ears during quarantine. Okay, cool. So it's a good plan. Excellent. I'm making progress on my digital decluttering project, reading and watching BTS content or K-dramas. I'm playing with my kittens and basically just taking care of myself. Sending my love from Poland. Thank you so much for being here whenever I need, and thanks for the books on grief recommendations. It's absolutely my pleasure to be able to help in any way that I can help during this quarantine. Any audiobook recommendations? I've been listening to David Tennant reading on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which I love. There's Libba Bray's Beauty Queens that she narrates, and she does all the voices, and it's really fantastic. And let me think about the other ones that I listen to all the time are the Harry Potter books, Stephen Fry. Hi.
Say hi.
Yeah, come say hi. My flatmate, Sana, who so many of you may know, would like to say hello.
I love this corner. This is great. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I'm Sana. Hi.
Someone, AJ just asked, random question, are you sat on a stool right now? I always assumed when you filmed videos in the spot, you were stood up. I'm sitting on a trunk.
This is your favorite spot.
I love this spot. There's a trunk that was, our flat came furnished, and there was a trunk, and I've like repurposed it as my little corner to sit on. It's where I do my like Zoom calls and things like that.
It has the best background.
You read quite a lot of audiobooks. Do you have any audiobook recommendations?
Ooh, okay, yes. So I just read The Five, which is about the 5 women that were murdered by Jack the Ripper, but it's like their stories.
Nice and fun.
Yeah, because their stories usually get kind of pushed to the background. It's very much the stories of their whole lives instead of just that event. So that's really interesting, especially if you like true crime but are interested in like the discussion around how true crime should be treated,
like the ethics of true crime.
Yeah, and then if you like the history side of it as well, so that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, I really like that's a good one. Lena says I reread all 7 of the Harry Potter books for the first time this quarantine time. It has really helped me mentally. Would highly recommend. I'm
listening to that. They're doing it on Spotify. They're doing different actors reading the first Harry Potter book. Yeah, and I listened to the first chapter, which is Daniel Radcliffe, and that's really fun. I did that on my walk to the supermarket. It is the actress who plays Hermione in the first chapter. I don't know what.
Noma Dumezweni?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, I love that. She's fantastic.
That's really fun.
She was in Normal People, and I was like, oh my god, there she is. Lena says, I've been listening to the Harry Potter and Sacred Text podcast on my daily exercise walks, which has been really lovely. We love Harry Potter and the Sacred Text in the just nerdfighter world. They're so great. And Casper ter Kuile has a fantastic newsletter that I really recommend that he sends out, or like reflections on religion and community. And I think you can sign up on his website. So
I haven't listened to it actually.
You haven't listened to Harry Potter and Sacred Text? No, I'd love it. You'd love it. And
the first podcast I ever listened to was a Harry Potter podcast, and then I didn't listen to any podcasts for like
was it
8 years. Yeah, it was MuggleCast.
Yeah. I was a podcast girl.
I downloaded it on my like little MP3 player, just like straight off the website, because it's the
God.
only way to listen to it.
I remember listening to it on the computer, like on the family computer.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about? Oh yeah, Casper ter Kuile is also a massive fan of You've Got Mail, which we just rewatched recently.
We did.
Which is such a great fun. It's on Netflix in the UK, if you have Netflix. And I just love that film so much. Especially because like in that film, the baddies are like Barnes and Noble, and it just does it. It's a film called You've Got Mail, and it's just not aware of what's coming around the corner when it comes to
And also it's like the same with when I rewatch Bridget Jones. The longer I work in publishing, the funnier it gets, because you kind of like know all the inside bits.
Oh, Bridget Jones is so great for that. Now I want to watch Bridget Jones again. Listening to Daniel Radcliffe really made me happy. Yes, people saying hi to you. I'm making oatmeal chocolate chip cookies because I accidentally ordered 2 huge bags of oats while Sana's been making cookies.
Oh my God.
And I actually just had one for pre-lunch.
They're the Anna Edits like melty gooey chocolate chip cookies. She actually just posted a vegan version of it as well, which I haven't tried out yet. But yeah,
we've been doing lots of baking.
I'm going to make my Easter loaf today, I think. I know.
There's a Dutchie in here.
Hi, you'll know about the Dutch Easter loaf, which is like raisin bread, and then you put almond paste, like a ring of almond paste in the middle, and then you can eat it with like butter or cheese or whatever you prefer. And it's so good. And I thought it'd be really hard to make, and then I did it once, and I was like, this is fine. I can actually do this.
So yummy. That was my first Easter loaf, and I loved it. Someone said, Nikki was replying to a question of can you join Life's Library, which is our book club, and the Life's Library Discord is always free and available to join, and you can keep an eye out on DFTBA's channels to see when they open physical subs back up. You can find out what we're reading at any given time at lifeslibrarybookclub.com. We're currently still in the reading period for Journey to the Centre of the Earth by Jules Verne, which is publicly available in public domain everywhere, but the Life's Library team has also put together a little ebook for free for this period, and also you can get access to the podcast, which we just recorded and should be going up pretty soon, hopefully, and all these other wonderful extras that have been created for Journey to the Centre of the Earth. And if you want to just like read along with us, whatever we're reading, the next book we're reading is Blonde Roots. You can always just tag us on Instagram or on Twitter, or just like read yourself and be part of it and know that you're reading.
I really want to read that. Yeah,
Blonde Roots.
Mm-hmm.
You read it. You know what is informally happening from tomorrow on the Discord? The Pride and Prejudice read along.
Oh my god!
Yeah, so I think I was like, I've got so many things to read, but now I'm like, I want to take part in that.
It's my last Austen that I have to
read.
You
haven't read Pride and Prejudice?
I've read part of Pride and Prejudice, but it was so long ago that I genuinely like. I've seen the film so many times that I just can't remember what I've read and what I haven't. Which
you
I
should
think
join.
A lot.
Yeah, because I'm going to do it. What's really nice is that I feel like the Life's Library community is at a point where people are organising lots of their own read-alongs and stuff.
That's fun.
And so the way it works, if you haven't been on Discord before, I can understand that it can be a little overwhelming, but there's lots of moderators and people who are happy to help and give you advice and so on. But how it works is that when you sign up, you pick a bookshelf that you like identify with, or that kind of calls your name and attention, and you click on it. And that takes you to, because we have so many members.
It's like a subgroup.
Nice. So that you can have discussions within that subgroup about the book that we're reading. There's also a lounge where you can kind of talk quite casually and then talk about the extras that come if you're signed up to the physical subscription or the digital subscriptions. So it's really fun. I'm just really pleased. And like every group has like their kind of own different vibe. But then there are moments that we all come together, like we all watched Journey to the Centre of the Earth, 1959, the other night, which was so much fun. And we do a Q&A. We've got the Q&A coming up, I think, like this week on Thursday, I want to say, or something like that, with me and John answering questions about Journey to the Centre of the Earth.
That's fun.
I just love it. It's just great. I love books. Questions.
Someone says Bastel. What's the name of the Dutch
bread?
Oh,
yes, that's Anna. Yes, Anna's the Dutchie.
Oh, amazing. Hi.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can keep track of both talking and the chat. I'm like, my mind
it's blown.
Can't keep up.
I'm just gonna. The favorite thing we've baked since quarantine. Well, we learned how to make scones, and that has been a revelation. Mm-hmm. They're really easy.
Yeah, I found an amazing vegan scone recipe from like. It's not called like Loving It Vegan.
Yeah, that is what it is.
Super, super easy.
So
it takes literally like 15 minutes to prepare, 12 minutes in the oven.
And then because I didn't have any vegan milk, I just made it using cow's milk.
Yeah, you can like adjust it however you want.
And because it's what I had, and it was like, it tasted great. And then we added raisins to it because we're a raisins kind of household.
I forgot raisins the first time, and I was so disappointed in myself.
They just taste so good. It was funny because Sana's like are these really like tall boys, and mine are like these little really like mini boys.
Yeah, you made small ones.
Small ones. Kirsten says, saw your video the other day about the library books you got pre-locked down and really enjoyed watching it. Yeah, that's on Sana's channel if you want to see our big stack of library books. And Wylam says you've got mails on Prime in the US if you have Prime from the demons you must nominate. Hype for Pride and Prejudice group read. Yeah, me too. I'm really excited.
Do you know how many times you've read it?
Oh, no. 6, 7, 10.
God.
Loads.
It's just a book that was never introduced to me until I watched one of the adaptations in my 20s, I think, probably. I just didn't really, Austen wasn't really a big part. Like, I read Emma at uni.
Yeah.
And that was, like, probably the first Austen I did. Yeah, it just wasn't really, because obviously I was in the Netherlands, it just wasn't a big part of, like, my education.
I think, like, school age, especially when the film came out, the 2006 film came out. Bridget Jones bummed me out hard last time I watched it. Used to love it. I think I'm too old now. I definitely find myself going like creepily, not creepily, but just like every time I watch the opening montage of All By Myself, I'm like, all right.
Oh yeah, I get this when I watch Gilmore Girls, and suddenly I like all the love interests of the mom. Yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm there. I mean, I'm literally like her age now, pretty much.
I rewatched, I think I've said this to many of you before, but I rewatched My Best Friend's Wedding quite recently, like last year, the Julia Roberts one with Rupert Everett, and it's fantastic. It's not fantastic, but it's very funny, like in a laugh at kind of way. And in it, they basically make a pact that if they're not married by the old age of 28, then they're going to marry each other.
When was this film released?
The 90s or something. And I watched it, and I remembered seeing it when I was much younger, and I was like, yeah, 28 is so old. And then I'm like, hang on.
Oh, yeah, it is bizarre.
For the record, I'm 28 right now. Sam is even older. It's fine.
I'm 31.
Agnes has been waiting for info on the PMP read-along. That's on the announcements page on the Discord. But I think it's kind of like read as you go. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I'm the authority on that. Look on the bulletin board, because that's not announcements. It's on the bulletin board, and you can discuss it if you have questions on the bulletin board discussion channel. I can't remember exactly what that's called right now. The window art parties have been fun too. Yeah, so people on Discord have been doing parties where they will make art for their windows, like decoration parties. And it's just been really cool. People sharing their pictures.
I love arts and book clubs together. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing some art, just some watercolors.
We need to still do like our official crafts, evening.
The thing is about me and Sana is that we're very self-motivated when it comes to like crafty, arty project stuff. And it's to the point that like we have so many arty crafty.
We have all these ideas for things we want to do, and like what we want to do for our final weekend together before I move out.
Sana's moving out.
It's
very rude.
But I'll be close.
Like 1st of June?
July.
Yeah, I was like, 1st of June is next month.
Yeah.
My head just went to no. So yeah, you have some time.
Yeah.
There is some
think
time.
about all the fun things we want to do.
Best thing about being flatmates, I feel so lucky to be social distancing with my good friend flatmate, says Isabel. For me, it's because she'll do so many lovely little kind things. Like yesterday, she brought me a Coke and a cinnamon bun, and I was so happy. And then later, she walked into my room holding a cookie. It's just incredible.
I feel like we have the same lockdown energy, which I think is really good. So we both want to do fun stuff. But then also sometimes we just want to work.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've got the boat.
I think we're quite good at like leaving each other alone when we need to. And it's never like a big like, I'm going to have some alone time now.
Yeah.
Except for humor. Usually Sana's saying that about me because I'm like singing. This morning I was singing Starman over and over again. And I asked her what she wanted me to sing next. And she said something like, whatever you like, and then closed the door.
It works. It's good partnership.
It's a good dynamic. Yeah, no, it's been great. I'm happy with it. My favorite cookbook is called Minimalist Baker by Dana Schultz. It's a vegan cookbook with simple recipes. It's also a blog. I follow that blog.
Yeah, I think me too. Yeah, definitely.
Cygnus members, Cygnus is one of the shelves, have been sharing baking and cooking recipes in a central doc for a while now. I've shared quite a lot of Minimalist Baker recipes. Fantastic.
Where did the names come from for the different shelves?
They came basically from when the moderators were developing the shelves, and they have they're from like different facets of the shelf. So there's one called like Scale, which is quite like sciencey. And there's Ivy, which has
what
like
does
Ivy.
Cygnus mean? Do you know? I don't know how to do this. I'm curious.
Rightly Googled. It's a constellation.
Oh, nice. Oh, I'm into that.
It's a constellation. Are they all constellations? No, they're not. Because there was originally going to be a theme of everything, but I can't remember. Anyway, whoever's in the chat, correct me. It's a swan constellation.
Lovely.
Great. I'm just like, making things up now. Thank you for introducing me to Escape Rules, says AJ. How's your poetry writing been since then? Well, I haven't done very much since then, but it's been really fun, and I'm still wanting to put them all together and maybe like put up a digital download of them and an audiobook of them, and like maybe, and like, I don't know, not charge too much for that, like $10 or something, I don't know. But figure that out at some point. But I want to make it really nice and like make it a really nice thing that you can look at nicely. And that's I'd like to do that by the end of May. I think we're both people who have like really
ideas of what we want to do, and then we make the ideas too big, and then it's hard to make it happen.
That's absurd. I don't know why you would say that.
Rosianna's given me a deadline to do my room tour video. We're doing like a shared room tour. And then she's like, okay, here's the deadline. And then you just have to, I mean, we're past the deadline now, but I've given you a new
deadline and it's tomorrow. Everyone tweets on us at Books and Quills.
I'm working on it. I can't figure out like how to title the aesthetic of my room, which has been a struggle.
Okay, so Sarah's introduced me into. So Sarah loves TikTok. She doesn't currently have it because she's using it too much.
I deleted it.
But she's introduced me to what the teens are talking about, and I love it. And there are all these different aesthetics like cottagecore and dark academia,
goblin core, light academia.
Oh yeah. So then this morning I spent a lot of time on the aesthetic wiki, which is a real thing, and looking at all the different kinds of core you can be with your room aesthetics. What was the one that was like goblin core but wasn't goblin core?
I genuinely
can't
remember.
There were so many. It's fantastic. I recommend searching like cottagecore wiki or something, and it will pop up.
It's great.
So then and then if you have seen on my Twitter, I was trying to find which one I am, which I think is a combination of which scholar and theatre.
Yeah, I think
that was the three that I'm off. Anyway, we've gone down a really dark line of
I've asked Instagram here's some pictures of my room. How would you describe this? Someone said like urban jungle meets light academia, because then it covers both the plants and the books, and that was hard.
Cara says I started rewatching Gilmore Girls, and I think we've all had a shift from I want to be like Rory to I want to be like Lorelai when we get older.
Especially after watching the reboot.
Oh, the reboot doesn't count. Sorry to anyone who loves to reboot. I do not count it as a part because they did not treat Logan with respect, and I will never forgive them.
I wonder if this time will be a good time to do a Gilmore Girl rewatch. I don't really have a series I'm watching right now, so
you should watch The Americans is what you should watch.
Maybe I will.
You will. Jessica has to go for another online meeting. Yeah, we're going to wrap it up soon too because I have to do my job.
Also, I have to go.
You have to go.
She has to go. Nice to see you guys.
I'll still be on here for a second, just reading through the last few comments, and then I've got to do some work. Well, I'll keep this up so you can watch it back through if you'd like to watch it back later, and I'll do another one. I feel like Tuesday's quite a nice day for it. Everything fell down. Someone answered how we named them. Oh, we wanted descriptive words that weren't too obvious. Perfect. Love it. I'm watching Killing Eve, and that's been really good. Yeah, Sana has also just finished Killing Eve. She started and finished. She watched the whole thing. She'd never seen it before, and she's watched season 3 before I have. And I love Killing Eve, and I haven't watched season 3 yet, so I look forward to doing that. Yes, I am going to stay in this flat that I love, and Sana is moving out, leaving me, but that's okay. So that will be an interesting experience, like going through the next phase of this lockdown thing on my own sim. So this was really lovely. I had such a nice time. Thank you for coming to this live stream. I hope you all have a good day, and I hope that you're taking care of yourselves, whether that means reading lots or reading not at all, and definitely hydrating. I've finished most of my glass of water. Hydration, it's important. But yeah, I will see you on the Discord. So as I say, the reading period for Journey to the Centre of the Earth is still going strong. We're starting Blonde Roots next month, which I'm excited about. But also there's a read-along for Pride and Prejudice starting tomorrow, and you can find details about that on the bulletin board on the Discord. And if you're like, what's Discord? Go to lifeslibrarybookclub.com and find out about it. It is free to join the book club. You can also, when subscriptions open up, sign up, and then there are different options like can send a book to you, etc., etc. But for now, I just want to say thank you for coming along, and take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.